Hello beautiful people and welcome. In today's video we are talking about series, and now specifically this video is focusing on arithmetic series that are finite, meaning there is an ending to what we are adding. As always, disclaimer time, I am human. Humans make mistakes. If I make a mistake, please let me know where it is so that way I may learn from it. All right, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to try to do this as fast as I can, although I can't promise anything. In front of me, I have the previous notes for the arithmetic series. I do not expect you to memorize anything. What I do expect you is to have a cheat sheet in front of you, so that way you have your formulas ready. All right, the very first one is we have a upper limit of 13. We have a lower limit of 4. Now this one here, when they give you the summation, they're asking you what is the series of 10 minus 2n from 4 to 13. Again, n is your position number. We're going to start out with our formula here. So we have S sub n is equal to the total number of terms divided by 2 times a sub 1 plus a sub n. Now, if you recall, a sub 1 doesn't actually mean a sub 1. This just means the first term. This here means the last term. So because our first term is in the 4th position, this technically is a sub 4. And because our last term is in the 13th position, this is a sub 13. Again, specific to this example. So how are we solving this? We are solving for the total number of terms. Total number of terms, here's our thinking bubble. Total number of terms, we have our upper minus our lower plus 1. So we have 13 minus 4 plus 1, which is 5. I can do math. And that's equal to 10. So here we have it. The upper minus the lower plus 1, that's going to be your term number. Now, the reason we do that is because if we start at a sub 1, we don't include, so if this is a sub 1, a sub 2, a sub 3, we don't include the first 2. By having the lower limit start at 4, we are removing these first 3, and the lowest number, position number that we have is a sub 4. So that is why we do it this way. All right, so let's go ahead and find out. So how do we find out what a sub 4 is? How do we find out what a sub 13 is? Just plug it in. So we're going to do another thinking bubble here. So I have a sub 4 is equal to, I'm going to plug this in with n equal to 4, and a sub 13, we're just going to plug it in. So 10 minus 2 times 13. 4 times 2, that is 8. 10 minus 8, that is 2. So our lower limit is 2. Excuse me, our lower limit is 4, but the term in the 4th position is 2. And then we have the 13, so 2 times 13, that is 26, minus 10 is 16. So we have a negative 16. The number of terms that we have is 10 divided by 2, and that's going to give us the summation from 4 to 13, which is the 10 numbers. And let's go ahead and solve this here. 10 divided by 2 is 5. 2 plus a negative 16, or 2 minus 16 is negative 14. Negative 14 times 5 is negative 70. So S sub 10 is equal to negative 70. Let's try this again. For example number 2, here it is. Same thing that we're going to do is we're going to find out how many terms we have. Using the lower limit, find the first term that we're using, upper limit, find the last term that we're using, and find the summation. So here's our thinking bubble again. So a sub 4 is equal to 5/3 plus 1/3 times 4. And a sub 16 is equal to 5/3 plus 1/3 times 16. using my calculator for this, I'm having 4/3, 4/3 plus 5/3. I don't technically need a calculator for this. Gives me 3. And this one here, 16 divided by 3, that can't happen. So I have 16/3 plus 5/3, and that gives me 7. So the term in the 4th position is 3. The term in the 16th position is 7. Now that we have that, let's go ahead and use our summation here. S sub, not 10, we don't know if that's true yet. We have to find the total number of terms. So the total number of terms, we do the upper, which is 16, minus the lower, plus 1. So we have 16 minus 4, that's 12, plus 1, that is 13. So this is S sub 13. The summation of the 13 numbers is equal to 13 divided by 2 times 3 plus 7. Now, don't do 13 divided by 2 first. Do this first in the parentheses, because then you can see you can cross divide the 2 and the 10. So now we have 13 times 5, and that is 65. So the 13 numbers that we're going to add up equal to 65. All right, let's move on. Question number 3. Again, we're finding the summation. In this case, they're giving me a sub 1, a sub n, and n. So let's write out our formula. S sub n is equal to the total number of terms divided by 2 times a sub 1, which is just the first term. It doesn't have to be the first term in the first position. It's just the first term, plus a sub n. They give us basically everything. 10 is n. A sub 1 is 21. A sub n is 75. So this one's super duper easy because they basically give you everything. So S sub 10 is equal to 5 times 21 plus 75. That is 96. So S sub 10 is equal to 96 times 5, which is 480. Here it is, one more time. S sub n is equal to n divided by 2 times a sub 1 plus a sub n. They tell us n is 50, so S sub 50 is equal to 50 divided by 2 times, they do tell us what a sub 1 is, plus a sub n. Ooh, they don't tell us what a sub n is. We don't know what this is. We don't know what this is. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of off to the side find out what a sub n is by using the explicit rule. So a sub n is equal to a sub 1. What are we doing? Arithmetic. So a sub 1 plus n minus 1 times d. So we don't know what a sub 1 is, but we do know what a sub n, is. Excuse me. I'm going to try to do this one more time. A sub 1 is given. A sub 1 is 32. See what happens when I try to go fast? 50 is n. Common difference they give us is 8. We are trying to find a sub n. All I need to do sometimes is just slow down. So 32 plus 49 times 8. 49 times 8 is 392. We're going to add 32 to that. And a sub n is equal to 424. So now we have the summation. I'm going to go ahead and divide 50 divided by 2. That is 25. 32 plus 424. And that gives me the summation of 11,400. So the first 50 numbers that we're going to add up give us 11,400. All right, let's move on. Now I did notice here in these two, we did have our formulas in explicit notation. So this would be, make sure that you are aware of where a sub 1 is, where a sub 0 or a sub naught is. The difference that we didn't use the information in the formula is because we had a lower limit of 4 here and a lower limit of 4 here. So if we had a lower limit of 0, then we would be able to find what your a sub 0 is. Keep that in mind, please. All right, let's go ahead and move on. Determine the number of terms n in each arithmetic series. So now they're giving us the total summation. We need to know how many terms did we actually add up. So we always start with the same formula. S sub n is equal to n divided by 2 times a sub 1 plus a sub n. S sub n is what they give us, is 1,345 divided by 18. They didn't give us what n is. N is what we're trying to solve. They did give us what a sub 1 is, and that's 13/18. And they gave us what a sub n is 128 over 9. So our objective in this question is to solve for n. I'm going to go ahead and add these fractions together. You can use a calculator. However, if you get a fraction, if you have a fraction here, you must stay with a fraction. Do not be converting to decimals. This is all about patterns. And so if you see a fraction, you have to stay with fractions. Do it by hand if you have to. For example, I added these two fractions together on my calculator, and that gave me a decimal. I'm going to convert that back to a fraction. And that gave me a fraction that is not an improper fraction. It gave me a mixed number, which is fine, but I want an improper fraction since 128 over 9 is an improper fraction. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply top and bottom by 2, and I'm going to choose to do this by hand. So I have 13/18 plus 256 divided by 18 over 18. So now I have 256 plus 13. And that is 269 over 18. Now again, what's our objective? Our objective is to get n by itself. How is n attached to the other stuff? Well, n divided by 2. So this bubble here is attached to my other bubble by multiplication. So I'm going to undo that multiplication by dividing by the fraction, or in other words, multiplying by the reciprocal. So I'm going to multiply by 18 over 269, both sides. My 18s cancel out. So now I'm left over with 1,345 over 269, and that's equal to n divided by 2. I'm going to multiply by 2 both sides and figure out what n is with the help of my calculator. So I have 1345 times 2. That's all divided by 269, and that actually just gives me 10. So all these big numbers and fractions give me 10. So how many numbers did you add up? You added up 10 numbers in the series. All right, let's move on to question number 7. And the question is the same thing. Find the number of terms. Find n. So S sub n is equal to n divided by 2 times a sub 1 plus a sub n. And I'm hesitating on this one because they didn't tell us what the last term is. So we have the a sub 1. We know that the first term in the first position is 2. However, I don't know what a sub n is, so we might have to do some planning. And we also don't know what n is. It's going to be fun. Let's figure it out. Let's figure this out together. So I have 752. They do give us that. N divided by 2 times a sub 1 is 2 plus a sub n. I don't know what that is. All right. So since we don't know what a sub n is and we don't know what n is, right now we have 2 unknown variables. A sub n is one unknown variable and n is another unknown variable. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to go back. You can do this 2 different ways, but it leads to the same result. If you have your cheat sheet in front of you with all your formulas, you can go back and you can use this formula here highlighted in yellow. And this formula basically just changes things up for you in the form of this method. So if you don't have that formula, that's fine. You can do the following. We know that a sub n is equal to a sub 1 plus n minus 1 times d. You can put the d either in front or behind the parentheses. I'm going to take what a sub n is, and I'm going to substitute it back into the equation for the one that we're using. So what I'm going to have is 752 times n over 2, and inside of the parentheses, I have 2 or my a sub 1, and the remainder of that is this part right here. So I'm going to have plus a sub 1 plus n minus 1 times d. And that gives me my 2 a sub 1s, because I have an a sub 1 here and I have an a sub 1 here. So that's 2 a sub 1s and the remainder. So I have 752 is equal to n divided by 2 times 2 plus, we know what a sub 1 is. A sub 1 is 2 plus, we don't know what n is. We do know what the common difference is because we can figure that out. So what happens from 2 to 8, 8 to 14, 14 to 20? Let's see, you can subtract if you want. So you do 8 minus 2. Remember, this is arithmetic. 14 minus 8. So the common difference is 6. Make sure that you are aware that arithmetic is different than geometric. Arithmetic, the pattern is adding. The geometric pattern is multiplying. Go ahead and distribute your 6. Two plus 2 is 4. So I have 4 plus 6n minus 6. And we're going to just simplify things. I'm starting to run a little bit out of space. That's okay. So 4 minus 6 is negative 2. So I have 6n minus 2. And again, it is your choice what to do next. You can get rid of the 2 by doing the following, or you can distribute. Again, it's up to you. So the way to get rid of the 2 is you're going to first convert this bubble into a fraction. So you have n times 6n minus 2 divided by 2. You have two fractions here. You have a fraction here times a fraction here now. And so how do you multiply fractions? You multiply fractions across. So I have 752 is equal to n times 6n minus 2. I'm going to multiply by 2 both sides to get rid of this 2 in the denominator. So 752 times 2 is 1,504, and that's equal to n times 6n minus 2. Distribute that n if you would like, or you may choose to, we might have to do factoring on this one. We shall see. We shall see. Because what I'm thinking is if I distribute the n, this is what I'm getting, which means I'm going to end up having to subtract and setting it equal to 0. Now, this is something that we've learned before. Don't let that scare you. We're just going to slip inside, factor this. Alrighty, beautiful people. Now, if you check on your calculator, 1504 divided by 6, that actually is not a perfect number. So unfortunately, the only way to continue this problem is to use the quadratic formula. Now, if you don't recall what the formula is, don't worry about it. There's always Google, right? Unless it's on an assessment. So you have minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a. Now, I have run out of room, so let me grab another sheet of paper. And I'm going to